Hey everybody, Mr. Warner here, and I'm going to show you guys how to set up and use the tracker to analyze a basketball shot. So I've got my steps over here to the side, and then I'm going to kind of show you everything in the tracker program right here. And I do kind of recommend going through and at least looking to see what each one of these do, and tinkering around up here, but I'm going to show you the basics of what we can do to do this. So the very first step, this is the blank screen that you get when you open up Tracker. The first part is to go and import that video, and my video is saved on my desktop right there. So I'm going to open that up and load that up. And once that's loaded, there's a clip setting up here on the top. And I do want to just check to make sure that my clip settings is correct. So this frame rate is the one that you may want to change right here. So this is set at 30 frames per second. And what I did is I Googled the iPhone frame rate, and it looks like most iPhones default to 30 frames per second, which is good. If you guys are doing slow-mo, you may have to change that to 240 frames per second. And you can also change, so you can change that here. And then also if you want to step like 5 frames at a time so that you get a little bit more change within your video for each one, then you can do that as well. But for mine right now, I'm just going to leave the default right there. So I've imported the video, I've checked the clip settings, and now I want to create a calibration tape. And so I did this wrong before by creating a calibration stick. We don't want that, we want the tape right here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag that guy onto this backpack that I sat right beneath the basketball goal, and then straight up to the rim right there. And so we know a basketball goal is 10 feet high, and I went to Google and converted 10 feet into meters. And so that 10 feet is going to be 3.048 meters. And I'm going to punch that in for my calibration length, 3.0048. And now I should have that calibrated. And so now the next thing that I want to do is go through and set my origin. So I'm going to try to find that spot. And I know because I did this before, I think it's frame 59 where the ball leaves my hand. Let's go right there to frame 59. And then I'm going to click this pink origin right here. And I'm going to drag that in right there. In my video, I did a pretty good job of setting the camera pretty straight, but if you got any tilt to your video, then you may have to change this as well. And you can change this by dragging it up and down and all that. So for right now, I'm going to make the positive x-axis to the right, positive y-axis up. So when I do this, my ball is kind of moving in the negative x direction because of the way I recorded the video. And the next part is to create a point mass here, and I'm going to call that mass the basketball. And then I can go through and start doing my shift clicks. So I'm going to go back to frame 59. There it is. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold shift so that I get that cursor right there, and then I'm just going to click on the basketball each time. And I'm going to try to click right there in the middle of the basketball. You guys can probably get a little bit more accurate than me as you're doing this. And I'm just trying to go kind of quick to get through this. So I've got the middle of the basketball goal there. Keep going. I'll let y'all kind of find out if that shot does end up going in. That should be enough for us right here. So I've got my shift clicks, and now what I want to do is, you could look at the data table to find this if you want, but for now let's look at the graphs, and let's look at all 3 of them. And so in the x direction, we should be able to look at the x position, the velocity in the x direction, and then also the acceleration in the x direction. And what we should be able to do is kind of drag this graph. I always like to be able to see 0 and a little bit below that. And what we see is in the x direction, we get that nice constant slope, and we see a relatively constant velocity, about -5 meters per second. And then the acceleration, once we kind of zoom out a little bit, we can see that acceleration is pretty much geared around 0. So that's the x direction. And then now if I want to look in the y direction, we'll look at those same ones. So y position, y velocity, and then also y acceleration. And with these I can see a little bit more, and I didn't do a great job with the clicks, but this VY graph is probably the best one for us to look at. And we should see that AY value to be about -10. We might even be able to set that down here somewhere. But either way, let's go into this, and if we can right click and go analyze graphs and look at this, and we can actually do a curve fit based off of that. So it automatically populates this Vy is equal to a times t plus b, which is good but not great. So let's go in and let's change that a value. So that's actually going to be acceleration. Let's see, acceleration times time plus our initial velocity in the y direction. Let's close that and auto fit. And now what we should see is that acceleration is negative. So here I got to be negative 8.9. It should be negative 9.8 times 10 to the 0 power. So basically times 1. And then I looked at this before and was a little bit confused. My initial velocity in the y direction here is got it as 2.27 times 10 to the first power, 22.7. And I thought of that to be really, really fast. And you kind of got to be careful because this goes all the way back to time 0. And so if I go and I'm going to zoom out a little bit on here so we can see all of that. And I'm going to go all the way back and drag this back to 0 time, which is actually the start of the video. And so that's what it is 0 time. It would be that really high value. But for us, the initial velocity was actually at about 2 seconds. And we can see that initial velocity in the y direction is more like 4.9 meters per second, which makes a lot more sense for what we've got. So we can do that to analyze the graphs, and then let's extend past that a little bit, and let's go measuring the x distance, and we can create a measuring tool now and get a tape measure, and we can figure out how far my toes are away from the basket. Try to get that line horizontal, and it's about 3.8 meters from me to the basket, so that's how far I am away. I guess that's the back of the rim though. Let's go to the middle. So about 3.3 to the middle. And then I can do another one if I want to measure the y. So say I want to get that max height right there. It looks like it's about right there. And then drag it down to the bottom. Then I can figure out my max height is about 3.5 meters. So there's that's just a few things that you can get from this, and really you're able to get a lot more information than just what we saw right here. But this is an introduction. You guys will get to try this with my video and then also with your own.